I got my pointer.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. This time, Sam Savage and I are doing a live broadcast, which means you have this amazing opportunity to ask questions, write comments, agree, disagree, and just in general have a conversation with us. So I think that will very much enrich our conversation. Um, to begin with, write where you're watching from, write in the comments and we'll soon be able to see it and we'll be able to react that. And don't be shy, ask questions, write comments, make sure it is it is interactive. I can see that 10 people and growing are watching on LinkedIn. I can see that one person has opened the YouTube. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. Ask questions. We are continuing our weekly broadcast to talk about some of the most common excuses risk managers and other people in risk management profession use that supposedly prevents them from implementing proper risk management. So, Sam, over to you. What's the story behind this list? How did you get
Well,
it?
I think
And
I think listen. I think we should do a quick review of the Savage and Hubbard top 10 list of lame excuses for not quantifying uncertainty. And this list is at flawofaverages.com, which is the website that goes with my two books and has a bunch of models you can download and stuff. And so the way it started was Doug Hubbard is uh, another soldier in the war on averages, right? And we share war stories all the time. Our war stories were so similar about people not wanting to quantify uncertainty, and our responses to these foot draggers was so similar that I decided to start this list. And just very quickly, so you um, understand what we've been through so far. We started at number 10. Our situation is too complex to model, so we do it in our head based on experience. Well, that really is a model. Number 9, and you can go back and watch these because they've all been recorded, and Alex has recorded them with me. We don't have the specialized software to run simulations. Right, Excel now can do all the simulation you'll ever need, or R or Python. We don't know the probability distributions, right? And um, that's no excuse because, well, I'll just say this one. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the land of the averages, the same can be said of the man with the wrong distribution. You can approximations are worth a lot, but now we're down to a very common excuse. Number 7. Um, I can't build a model until I collect the data. And this is one where Doug and I say in unison, information value theory teaches that you won't know what data to collect until you start building a model. And this is so vast. I know from personal experience that information value theory is not well understood. And I want to give you an example of what it is. It sort of changed my life when I learned about it. I had started teaching at Stanford, and I sat in on a class by the famous decision theorist Ron Howard. So let me give you kind of the simplest version of this. Let's see if I can do the math in my head on this. So um, you are uh, you're you're worried that it's going to rain tomorrow. There's a 10% chance it's going to rain tomorrow. And today, you could buy an umbrella if you want. Now, if you don't buy an umbrella and it rains, you will ruin $100 suit. So we could look at that risk as a 10% chance of losing $100. That's like a $10 risk. Okay. Now you could buy an umbrella, let's say for $5. I want to make the math as easy as I can so I can do it live in my head during this improv session. So you could buy an umbrella for $5. You say, you know what? If I buy the umbrella for $5, the risk is over. It cost me $5. Okay. Now, and that's what you do, of course. You're no fool. You buy the umbrella, so you're out $5. But that's all you're out. Okay. Okay, now suppose that you could call up some fortune teller who would actually tell you whether or not it's going to rain tomorrow. Okay. And we are assuming that there is truly a 10% chance of rain. We know that for sure. It just makes this part of the theory easier to explain. It isn't that we can't do the more complicated cases, but right now there really is a 10% chance of rain. I mean, the way to think about that is I've got a spinner here. I'm going to spin it. If it comes up less than 0.1, it rains, right? So the fortune teller can tell you whether or not it's going to rain. And you go to the fortune teller. Is it going to rain tomorrow? And the fortune teller is no fool. And they say, what's it worth to you? I'm not going to say for free, right? Let's calculate what it would be worth to know. So the fortune teller is going to tell you one of two things. There's a 90% chance they're going to say it's not going to rain. Well, then you're not going to buy the umbrella. There's a 10% chance they're going to say, yes, it is going to rain. And then you are going to buy the umbrella. So before you talk to the fortune teller, you're going to spend $5 on the umbrella. Now, there's only one chance in 10 that you're going to buy the umbrella, because there's only one chance in 10 the fortune teller is going to tell you it's going to rain. So that means one chance in 10 of spending $5 is 50 cents. So you went from getting ready to spend $5 on an umbrella. That's what you're going to do, spend $5. Now, by having the information, the expected payment by you is 50 cents instead of $5. In other words, you saved $4.50, right? And so the fortune teller, if they were smart, will say, hey, I'll tell you for $4.49, right? Because that's the real value of that information. And this just impacts us everywhere. Now, let's go back to displaying the screen again. Because how did I figure out that the information was worth $4.50, right? It took me from paying $5 to paying 50 cents. What's that worth? $4. How did I do that? I built a model. I built a model not knowing whether it was going to rain or not. Well, the same thing applies to, I'm going to build a capital investment model not knowing what the demand for my product is. Why? Because I will then be able to determine how much money I should spend improving my estimate of product demand. And Doug Hubbard has built a whole consulting practice out of this. He calls it applied information economics. It's more complicated than the umbrella, but it's always the same basic notion. And you start by building a model with bad information that can be improved by spending money. It's called the information age. Anyone remember that? Right. We pay for information, and that reduces uncertainty and stuff like that.
I have two anecdotes on that topic, and thank you. There's someone called the Warriors on YouTube who asked us a question, and Sam, you can have a look at the question on the right side of the screen while I share the two stories. So the two stories I have on this topic. Number one, um, me and the group of other risk managers in Europe have decided to make some money playing the lottery, just like some mathematicians and I think it was either Harvard or Stanford graduates in US did. We found the lottery which for marketing purposes once or twice a year did a roll down game, which basically meant that you get the same probability of winning, but every time you win, your winnings are significantly larger than you normally would have because they just have to spend the pool. The pool is too big, nobody got a jackpot for a long time, it's bad for ticket sales, so they just give out the pool to all the winners. And if you win, you would normally get more than than you normally would. So for the first time, when we played this game, this was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we've built a very complicated model to understand all the different inputs. We basically redesigned the whole logic of the lottery to understand how the lottery game works. And in the process, we discovered so many things because the rules were quite intricate. We read the legislation, we read the marketing brochures. So we really kind of almost redesigned the whole model for the game, only to discover. And by the way, we did win that time. We got a after-tax return of 60%, and it took us 3 days and 3 nights to buy thousands of tickets, and I mean literally thousands of tickets, using our random strategy. By the way, our first test was, is the lottery fair? Are some numbers more lucky than the others? And we immediately discovered that no, lotteries are very regulated, so it was completely random. So it actually meant it made no difference what numbers we picked in the lottery because it was just basically a large numbers game. And so we had to buy thousands and thousands of tickets. And so we got 60% return after taxes, which was good. But then 6 months later, we played the second time and we got, I think, 20 or something after tax return, 20%, which wasn't as fun. And so we were trying to find options for us to save time. And what we discovered in the process is that in our model that we originally designed that had maybe like 4 or 5 uncertain variables, only one variable really made the difference. Because we understood the game so intricately, we figured out that everything else actually makes little impact on the final decision to play or not to play, and only one factor mattered, and that factor was the number of other players. How well we estimate the number of other players and how the techniques that we found to estimate the number of other players from different social media monitoring and from the number of tickets sold and the ticket numbering system and all the other intricate ways to estimate this one uncertain variable that mattered the most. And so every other game that we played since, and this was for the last 4 years, we literally only modeled the single variable and that saved us hours and hours of time because we now knew that by building the full model, we realized that it would actually could have been shrunk to a very simple model. So that's first example, and that was just kind of a fun story.
Yeah,
We
no,
made some money. Yeah,
that's
go.
exactly right, Alex. And that reminds me of a couple other examples here. Let's see. One of them, two of them, two good stories. The first one was actually Doug Hubbard was asked by a branch of the military to estimate their fuel costs, when they were on missions, right? And everyone thought, oh, well, the fuel cost must be dependent on whether or not we engage in combat or not. Turned out that had nothing to do with it. It had to do only with, and fuel costs were a huge uncertainty, by the way. Oh my gosh, you're planning a mission somewhere. How much fuel should we bring it? I mean, I hate to say it, I'm not a militarist, but a lot of operations research grew out of these very important life or death questions. How much fuel should we bring? And it's so uncertain. It turned out it boiled down to whether or not you're on paved roads or not, which you could have told from a satellite map. Had nothing to do with these other things, right? Here's another one.
Sorry, what was that factor?
The factor was whether or not you're on paved roads.
Oh, the quality of the road.
Roads.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you could.
Yeah, which is not an uncertain thing. You can look it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Another
amazing.
one that was interesting to me. Talking to someone in a government agency recently, and every year, the government employees have to fill out, like, take some, I don't know, an hour or 2 hours or something, fill out a big long form on feedback on their job. All right. And there are methods to determine how much each question depends on their actual satisfaction, right? And I don't know, there were 100 questions or something. It turned out there was only one question that mattered, which was like, how much do you like your job from 1 to 5, something like that. But this procedure, you see, with millions of government employees and millions of hours spent, this procedure, by not just asking the one question, but asking 100 questions, it was costing, and still does. I mean, it's ongoing. Probably cost the American taxpayer $20 million, right? When you got all the information you needed from the one question, right?
From the one question that mattered.
Yeah. So, and there are things, but think of the examples of this. The information of like how big a market size is. We'll hold a market clinic or something and show people the new, a mock-up of the new car or whatever. Or, will the drug cure the person or kill the person? I mean, the bulk of expenditures in R&D drug projects has to do with gaining the information of what the drug is going to do. And these costs are huge. And so they really do recognize this. But the whole point is you can't really do this without a model. Let's go back to the beginning. You don't know what information to collect until you build the lottery model.
And you exactly, and you also realize that a lot of information that you thought you needed to collect was actually completely unnecessary. Because the second anecdote I have, which is actually a much more powerful story, because we ended up saving $3 million in like a month of work, was buying insurance for a global fertilizer company, insuring its cargo. It's sea cargo, so taking fertilizers and chemicals and sending them on large ships all over the world. And what we did is, well, my original idea was that the risks that I insured under this policy is somebody stealing the goods, somebody is damaging the goods, or the whole ship sinking, so complete total loss. And there are different kind of various risks that could happen. The fertilizers could get wet, or they could get burned, or they could compact into like solid matter that is unusable for the final use. And so my original idea was to build a loss exceedance curve for each of the specific risks and then aggregate it into the kind of the overall risk exposure. What I discovered very quickly is that for insurance purposes, so to make that specific insurance decision, for other purposes it may be useful, but to make that specific insurance decision, and that's why our risk model should really be driven by the decision at hand. To make that insurance decision, we just needed an aggregate loss curve, and we actually didn't care which specific risk events caused different losses. So when we were collecting the data from different brokers and insurance companies all over the world, and we collected more than 1,000 data points, we realized that it actually didn't matter what was the cause of the risk. As long as the risk occurred and it was an insurable risk, that was the only thing that we cared. And so that saved us a lot of time. We built the loss exceedance curve. We estimated what was the expected losses and therefore a fair price for this insurance policy. We then went out to the market, told the market what we felt was the fair price for the policy and why we felt it was a fair price. We actually did a very nice box plot comparison. This is the industry average risk, and this is our company risk. So did 2 box plots. Our company was significantly better controlled than the market risk exposure, and we ended up saving 3 million on the cost of insurance in just this 1 month of work by realizing that sometimes for a decision at hand, a complex model is just completely unnecessary, and a high-level model will do the job just as fine.
Right. And this goes back to another one of Doug's quotes, by the way. You have more data than you think, and you need less data than you think. That will probably be in one of the other excuses that we come up with. But now, do we have comments here?
Well, so we have one question.
Yeah.
Let me read that question now. Somebody called the Warriors is asking us, what is the preferred way to show impact? Is it quantified with likelihood and probability? I don't understand what this question means, so maybe please try and paraphrase that in a way that will be easier for us to answer, because to get every risk is, or most risks I guess, is a distribution, and to get a distribution you usually use like a frequency of risk occurring and some sort of impact distribution, and you simulate
Let
the
me just make a
distribution.
comment that
Yes.
might help here a little bit. The value of information is most easily understood in terms of decision trees. See, like this happened or that happened, right? Monte Carlo simulation, look at the whole distribution, it's like a decision bush. Any
Yes.
one of 1,000 things could happen. But to get your head around this subject, decision trees are the way to begin. I have a chapter in my book on the flaw of averages on this, by the way, on decision trees and the value of information. And so
in the first book or the second book?
In the first book,
I will post a link.
Yeah, this is the book, and let me find the chapter. So it's, and here I have a bunch of pictures of decision trees and stuff, but decisions and information. There are 2 chapters, 14 and 15. 15 is, you can see it, the value of information, right? Which is just everyone should understand that concept. I truly did not understand it. And it means the value, really think of it this way, it is the value of reducing uncertainty. That's what it's the value of.
I know that more than 10 people are watching us on LinkedIn right now. Any questions, any thoughts, any comments, by all means, do write in the comment section and we will see it. YouTube, same message. Any questions, you're welcome to join. If you don't have any questions, well, then maybe just mention where you're watching from. So it's a little bit more exciting. Any other thoughts, Sam, on this number 7
No,
lame excuse?
I urge everyone to understand the value of information. If you've tuned in, I mean, there are, almost 8 billion people on Earth. The number of tuned in is a very tiny fraction of that who are interested in this subject. You should all learn about the value of information. I imagine there is a Wikipedia article on it, but I don't know. Should we check that, Alex? It's always sort of interesting to check something like that out. Do you want to try it at your end and then share your screen if you find something on Wikipedia?
Yes, I will.
And I'm going to
I will.
stop sharing.
I will try that. It's all right. I
Oops.
replaced.
And that I see that's our probability management site.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for joining. Hi, Aaron. We saw your comment as well from the very beginning. Now, while we're waiting for your questions and while I'm searching for the for the value of information concept on Wikipedia, Faisal, by the way, asked the question. Let me share it to the main screen. Sam, do you want to have a go answering that while I'm looking for the
Yes.
value of information?
Yes. So modeling techniques need to be cascaded and mandated by top management in order to change the risk management implementation. What is the role of the risk manager to influence such behavior? Great question, and it's not what you think. The top management of big companies today have all had a statistics course, and for 95% of them, they were left with what I call post-traumatic statistics disorder, or PTSD. So the most important thing you can do with top management is to cure them of their PTSD. And you are not allowed to show any equations. You can tell stories about umbrellas and rain, right? It's difficult. It involves public relations. It involves public speaking. It's being influential. It's more like being a poet or a musician than it is like being a mathematician to capture these people.
Thank you. Aaron is asking a good question as well. When we realize that the information is lacking, I guess the real question is, shall we increase the information if it's cost effective?
So the whole point is to find the most cost effective information to get. And I have to point out that Ron Howard has done studies where the marketing company comes in and says, "Oh, we're going to do a marketing survey. It's going to improve your information on the demand for your new product. We'll charge $10 million." And the people go for it. If they'd done a value of information, they would have discovered that the information that they just spent $10 million on is worth $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, the marketing company will tell you anything, but
I literally had that example not so long in my in my work. We had a risk model sold to us by one of the biggest information provider companies in the country, claiming that it would use its 155 risk factors to preventatively identify and rank all the important risks and tell us which counterparties are acceptable and which counterparties are not acceptable. So we, for some strange reason, being arrogant and bad guys, we decided to backtest that claim. So we've taken 3,000 companies, some good and some bad, and backtested the risk model, only to discover that out of 155 risk factors, I think approximately 15 mattered, and everything else was just useless noise. And it was in fact, if we used the calibration, the weights that the company was proposing to use as their out of the box solution, we would have so many false positives and false negatives that we would, as a company, we would lose a lot of opportunities and lose a lot of money through bad vendors. And so thank God we didn't
Yeah.
use any of their advice, and completely recalibrated the whole risk model. And we actually ended up switching off probably close to 100 of risk factors that were supposedly amazing and predictable because they were just basically noise and marketing nonsense.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm reminded of a story. I was working for a bank in London, right? And
Hmm.
you got these guys fresh out of business school. Oh, let's give away toasters when people open a new bank account, right? And they do that. They don't collect any data, you know. And then they come back. Oh, let's give away teddy bears. That's a good idea. Never determining whether it made any difference, doing no analysis whatsoever, just pulling ideas out of the air and not back testing or anything with them. I mean, it's just and we that all pertains to the value of information. And I'm glad you found the article. I'm sort of interested if you go down to the bottom, and I'm going to have to sign off here pretty quick, Alex. But we should see Ron Howard's name down at the bottom. Let's see who the people at the bottom of this Wikipedia article are.
Number one.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, is that Herman Kahn?
Yes.
No. Wait, Kuhn. Yeah, I know that name, Kuhn Tucker. I don't know the others on that list, but I haven't read this article. Now I noticed. Look at that equation at the top. Do not let your CEO
Executives.
see that equation. You mustn't use equations. There's another thing with that CEO, because that was such an important question asked by someone. How do we get this across to top management? I often advise meeting with them alone. And thank you for putting my seminar up here. That's what this is about. You meet with them alone, and you use examples like dice. See, dice are uncertain. Show them an average die. If we use single numbers, give me a number. It's uncertain. It's like rolling a die. Give me a number. Well, then you give them a flat die with 3.5 dots on each side. No, you wouldn't make decisions like this.
We will talk about that next week. That is literally the next lame excuse. So Sam, you have to go very quickly. Somebody on LinkedIn asked, will the video be available? The answer is, of course, yes. It will be available both on Risk Academy YouTube channel and probabilitymanagement.org YouTube channel, and it will be available on LinkedIn forever. Very quick announcements. Sam is doing a series of webinars in July and August, explaining and kind of really deep diving into this concept of chansification based on his second book, which is also available on Amazon. The link I shared in the comments. Please sign up if you're interested, because that comes with a lot of goodies. And of course, in October, if you haven't signed up already, Risk Awareness Week, like every year, it's coming, and Sam will do more sessions at the Risk Awareness Week as well. It's still early bird discounts on the Risk Awareness Week, so now is your time. Sam, any last comments?
No,
thoughts?
It's always fun, Alex. I look forward to doing this regularly.
We will. So thank you very much to all the participants, and we will see you next week.